as an artist, I am a dark pop multidisciplinary artist based in New York and LA. So I do a little bit of everything. I write, sing, obviously, songwriter, actor. I do most of my visuals and a little bit of everything on both coasts.
So, with that in mind, when transferring into the music realm with all those little talents,
Mhm.
have any of those kind of talents kind of brought in inspiration towards your music?
For sure. Like, Coyote Eyes, it's so interesting because I've been in the music for since I was a teenager, or in the music industry, but then I took on Coyote Eyes just kind of as a way. I was so into, well ingrained into pop music, and I really wanted to do something anonymously so I could really like have complete creative freedom. So Coyote Eyes for me initially became this like anonymous entity. And I was just kind of doing it as like a throwaway thing so I could really experiment. And then it kind of took off, which seems to happen. So then it kind of became a character. So it's really fun using, elements of acting and storytelling and all of that, both in the music and in the visuals that accompany the music.
Ooh, love that. So, I'm always curious as to how one's come up with a name for themselves. So, how did you create it Coyote Eyes?
So it's kind of a cool story. So Coyote Eyes was just something that kept popping into my head, which is so random. Like I remember I was doing a play in New York, and I would literally be between scenes and it'd be like Coyote Eyes. And I was like, what does that mean? But I was like, okay, I knew I wanted a moniker. And like, people have over the years have been like, you've got such intense eyes, which I feel like every dude says that to you when you meet him though. So who knows? But I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it makes sense. So I went in and there was a team that I was working with at the time, and a guy who's become a great mentor. I walked into a meeting one day and I was like, hey, I've got this idea for Coyote Eyes. And he was like, yeah, I think it's just so great that you chose that. It was really like smart to use that symbolism or whatever. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And so he was like, oh, I thought you just chose that because of like the spirit animal symbolism. And I was like, no, I've never heard of it. So I looked it up. And if you look at like the characteristics of the coyote, you would literally think that you were talking about me. So it was kind of a cool thing. And after that, I felt like I really had no choice. It kind of just chose me. Um, but traditionally, the coyote symbolized this creature that was completely impossible to categorize and is paradoxical in every single form you can imagine, but is like sent to say the truth, whether that be through humor or through, um, you know, tricks or chaos or, all of this. But as an artist and, as an actor too, but, with music, I've always been really, really, really hard to put into one category. And I think you know, growing up in the industry, that was something that I used to get a lot of flack for. People would be like, you can either be like a really nice girl and then do really nice pop music, or if you want to do the dark music, because I would always come into rooms with this like really dark music, but then I looked like this like sweet little blonde at the time Southern girl. And so people would be like, no, 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 there's a disconnect. If you want to do this dark stuff, we need you to like look gothy and be gothy. So that was like, a disconnect that previously had been, I fought against. And I was like, wow, what a cool way to actually be able to embody it and for that to like become my identity.
Love it.
Sorry.
Because when I first saw the name Coyote Eyes, I was like, all right, this is going to be very like being the dark, sultry type vibe. It pairs so well with the music that you've been releasing lately. And the new song that's out now, which is Gasoline. I want to talk more about it because it feels so good. It feels something straight from like I want to call it like an anti-hero kind of like bad chick like kind of movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. The producer that I worked with, originally we had created this like production duo just to like write things that for like trailers and things like that. And then I was like, do you want to work on some like Coyote Eye stuff? So this was actually the first thing that we did together.
Ooh.
His name is Jared Chance Taylor, and he's very much a composer and does a ton of cinematic stuff. So you can hear that. And in the other songs that I've done with him too, it's really cool. You can always hear like some very specific like vocal choral layering. And I love the way he does that. But yeah, I love Gasoline. It's very much like a taking your power back, Phoenix Rising song. And then do you want me to go into the story of it, or do you want to?
Yeah, go for it. I
Okay.
love that you already hit the realm of like, oh wow, so it is a cinematic and I'm on
Totally.
board.
Well, totally. And that's the thing too. And even with like the acting and the writing and all this stuff, like I've always been a very visual writer. And I, like many, songwriters, I started as a poet before I was, like, oh, these are song lyrics. But so many of those, if you go through the song, it kind of, you can see the story, I think, or at least for me, like, you have the lyric like, follow me home when I'm alone. Like you kind of see, and like stepped in my blood and you took it all back. You see this kind of journey. But it's a very it's probably my most existential song. But I was playing with this idea, to make it as concise as possible, about how like as a woman, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but there have been times in my life where I've felt like someone in a romantic sense has like created this idea about me or this fantasy about me in their head, whether that be because we've been doing it forever, like when you had a crush on someone and you're like, oh, they're the coolest person, da 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 da, and then you get to know them, it's totally different. But
Yeah,
today it's like, it's so exacerbated because we have social media, right? And it's like we're all creating and curating what we want people to think of us. Um, like there's this great line from House of Cards, that show back, I don't know if you ever saw that, but one of the
I have, yeah.
characters said, okay, Frank Underwood says, we are nothing more or less than what we choose to appear. And so I feel like it's kind of that, like it's not the obviously it's a very I don't want to say angry, but it's kind of like taking a stance at feeling like you've been considered a fantasy or an object and have been used as such. So I feel like, from my perspective, I had all these experiences where, whoever, men in my case, would see me on social media or, on a dating app or whatever it was, and get this idea of me. And then when they would spend time with me and they would realize that I'm this like, kind of complicated, a little bit awkward, clumsy, creative human being with a lot of, facets and flaws, then they would be like, oh, actually, this isn't really what I thought that I was getting when I looked at social media. So I'm going to move on. And I feel like because we like curate these lives on social media, that really happens a lot. And it's
Yeah,
so easy for us to like swipe on to the next person. So Gasoline is really, about how we've become disposable to one another, and like the anger that comes from that, and the feeling of being completely um feeling kind of thrown away like an object.
definitely agree with you on that. And
Hopefully makes sense.
and you know what? And with everything, it pairs so well with how you had originally posted the moniker of Coyote Eyes. So it pairs perfectly to it. Um, and we create this false identity and false advertising of once what we want people to perceive us.
Right.
It's fun. It's a great take to kind of get to see the darker side of it all. Like I said earlier, it felt very cinematic. It felt like I felt you can kind of see the music video like form, and that's one of the things I loved about it.
And I
And I
won't tell you about the music video, but it's gonna be pretty exciting.
ooh, okay. So with that, you have this song out, and then you have a few others. Are we going to be seeing a EP or an album coming out soon?
I thought about that. I've been working on an album for quite some time, and I was, holding on to it. And I don't even want to tell you how many songs I have for this album, because you would be like, oh my God, what is, like, you can't like hoard things. So right now I'm just doing 3 singles. I think I'll probably look to a full EP around late fall.
Okay. So out of in terms of, we with Gasoline being worked on it, with working with Jared, I'm curious in terms of like the dynamic between the two of you when it came to like sitting down and producing this song together. Was there any kind of a struggle, or was it more just
It was one of the
camaraderie?
easiest. And it's so funny. There's actually someone, I was FaceTiming with him about a year ago, and then a friend was like, recorded us or whatnot. And so it's so interesting. We were talking about like the experience working together. And for both of us, it was one of literally the easiest sessions that either of us have ever had. Like with Gasoline, we were introduced by a mutual friend. His name is Andrew Dixon. And he was like, I think you guys, might hit it off. And then I think we had one email, and he was like, hey, can I send you a track to Top Line? And so he sent me Gasoline, and then I came in the next day and we had the entire song done in half a day. It was so easy. It was just something about it was just so organic. And literally he sent me the track. And I wrote the lyrics and melody on the way to the studio, and that was it. That was really it. It was such a great collaboration between the two of us, and it was just one of those really, really, really lucky, great matches. So he and I did a bunch of songs together, and we're actually about to start a new project together as well.
Ooh. So I'm always curious when it comes to like the writing process. I know you said this was done like literally half a day. Um, when you're coming up with these ideas, where are you most likely pulling your inspiration from?
So for me, songwriting, it's I was talking to somebody about this today. It's like, writers who are so prolific, and I'm always like, how did you do this? Did it come through you? Were you planning? It totally depends. If I'm writing just for myself or just for Coyote Eyes as opposed to for a different project, um, usually for me, songwriting comes all at once or not at all. I'm just very
Ooh,
one of those like creative vessel bursts thing.
yeah.
Gasoline specifically, I knew that I wanted to write about like chemical reactions. So the first thing that happened that came to me was gasoline. And so I was like, okay, well, let's go with that. And then came kerosene. And then from that, we just started at the very beginning, and it became kind of putting together all of these like dualities, polarities, paradoxes throughout the song, and it just built from there. So usually, for a lot of songwriters, it's like, it's solving a puzzle, it's all of that. For me, I'm not, every lyric has to be very specific and very intentional. Like, you will, in none of my songs will you ever find a lyric like, I don't know.
Counting the
Uh,
days a week.
yeah, or like, you know, please don't leave me. It's so hard to be, whatever, see, whatever. It's, you're never going to
Yeah.
find some super generic. Um, so I just started with like these two polarities, and I was like, okay, well, I am the night. What can go with that? And so just went from there.
Well, when you said, "No, I am the night," my mind went straight to Batman for like a half second.
Yeah, well, maybe this will be in the new Batman then. It's a great call. We'll
I
just
would
go
love
for
that. If they bring back out was it a Batgirl back from the vault, that would
yes.
be perfect for it.
Yeah.
So I'm usually at this part where I have like a couple conversation cards that I have pulled out, kind of like a tarot spread, but they're all fun questions. It's gonna get to know you on a new level. What is something you cannot live without?
Ooh, my family and this guy down here, Teddy.
And obviously, I think that's probably the most number one answer I would hope to get.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So what is a dream you've let go of?
Ooh, that's a tough question. That is a really tough question. I don't think I've ever truly let go of any dreams. I just don't have that in me, but there's certainly dreams that I've put aside. And usually if it's a real dream, I can only do that for so long. Like something that there are two things that come to mind. One, I was very serious about television writing for a little while. And, I was in New York and I was doing a lot of theater, and I'd been on hiatus from music for a couple of years, and I was writing a ton of scripts. And then I remember I was in the middle of this pilot, and then Coyote Eyes took off. So that's something that I would love to be able to incorporate back into my life. That's one. Two, I am an aerialist as well. I do aerial acrobatics, and I started doing it during COVID. I got a Groupon when it was safer for like
Yeah.
5 aerial classes. I've got like this Groupon addiction. Everybody handles things differently. I handle my problems with Groupon. And I just got totally hooked. And so I started training and training and training. And there was a vocalist who I had seen. She goes by Opera Gaga. Her name's Marcy Richardson. I saw her perform, and she was singing on aerial hoop. And I remember the first time I saw her perform, I was just like tears. And I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. So I started training. And then I had my first performance as an aerial vocalist about a year ago. Very hard. It's very hard to
Really?
do. It's singing and doing like aerial acrobatics at the same time. And then I stopped training as consistently as I used to. So that's something that I've put to the side that I really want to bring back.
That has such a huge like core workout. And then on top
So
of it, putting your vocals on that is insane.
it's insane. It's a lot of it took a lot of, learning as far as technique with that. Like, I think the key for anybody who decides they want to be an aerial vocalist is not to do, you sing your line when you're still, and then you do your trick. Like, you cannot do both. You cannot do
Was
both. You need a lot of ADR if it's film.
I know was it gosh Pink's whole
Yeah.
tour is her doing it.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was another big, like when she did Sober on trapeze, like that. I mean, that's one of those things, like it makes me realize so dramatic, like the whole point of being a human being. It's like, we all have those things. It's like when you see something or you experience something and you're like, this is what it means to be alive. Like, that's what that is for me.
here. What's a compliment you wish you frequently received more often?
Wow, you've got great questions.
Thank
You've got
you.
great questions. I wish I had received more often. Oh, I'm so bad with compliments. I feel like a lot of artists probably are.
Yeah.
Um, for me, my greatest current, I don't want to say insecurity, but I put a lot of pressure on myself about where I am, like, my stage in my career. Like, it's always like we're working and we're working, we're working. We have these like big lofty goals.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would love to hear more often about my writing or my like the quality of my work. Not that I don't hear that, but I feel like so much of the industry, things get wrapped up in, oh wow, like your numbers are doing really great,
Yeah.
or like this branding is on point, or this is what's next. And sometimes it's really nice to hear like, you know, I really love your voice. Not that I don't hear that, but
Oh, I get it. It's like we're in the time of like social economics is more important than the philosophy of creativity, and that's we're in that kind of weird time point where it's more important to show numbers as opposed to the craftsmanship, and I love that.
yeah. And I think it's getting better. Like, I do, and this could just be me, like, because I'm a millennial, so I never
Same.
thought I was, but okay, yeah, I'm starting to feel like that old man who's like, kids, get off my lawn. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of shifting a little bit. I don't know if it's just me, but I do feel like people are getting a little bit tired of just social media and things like that. And I'm at least seeing this like resurgence of art that's just like really soulful, really raw, really, you know, I'm seeing a lot of beautiful art that's made. So it's, finding that balance. But sometimes it's just nice to hear that, like, you're on the right track.
I love seeing the growth of an artist, and these three songs are amazing together. Um,
Yeah.
and once everybody hears Gasoline, I see no issue with you getting that notoriety from everybody.
Do you want to
That's
hear about the music video? Do you want me to tell you about it?
I do.
Okay. So we are actually shooting this video on Monday,
Oh shit, that's
which is
that quickly.
I know, which is really quickly. It was like it kept being pushed back because of you'll understand in a second because of the
Okay.
logistics of it. It was a lot of logistics that went into this, but I think it's going to be super worth it. Do you know who Lady Godiva was?
Yes.
The lady with the horse.
Yeah.
So I guess for people who don't, she was this woman who lived in the 13th century, right? It's either 13th or 14th, like way
I
back in
think
the
it's
day.
13th. I did a whole essay of this back in like freshman year of high school.
Yeah. And so she was married to this guy who was this very, very oppressive ruler. I can't remember what, but he was taxing the living daylights out of the people of his country. And he was just very Machiavellian. And so I mean, they were all like starving and all of this. And so she kept begging him to lower the taxes and to help the people. And he said, no, the only way I'll do that is if you run through, like if you go through town naked, which back then was like damning for a woman. It was like the most shameful thing you could do.
Yeah.
So she stripped off naked, got on a horse, and she just rode around until he lowered those taxes. And so that's what we're doing. So, so I'm getting on a horse. There's going to be a lot of hair, and we're retelling that story.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
The logistics of like, when will the Cowboys not be at the ranch? Kind of that kind of thing.
Oh, I see. Okay, I now get it. Okay.
Yeah, there's a
So,
lot of like hearing and permission to be asked for that kind of thing.
ooh. So, where would be the filming location be
We're filming
at?
here in where there's a ranch that's a little bit north of Los Angeles.
Okay. All right.
I very nicely asked a bunch of cowboys if they would mind terribly if I got naked and rode one of their horses, and they were like, "We think we can. We think we can work it out."
So, now, I know that there's pieces that you can be able to put on. Are you going to be fully covered? Are you going to be covered while riding? Because I know
Just by my
with
hair.
just
Just, yep.
oh
This isn't
wow.
something that you can't show. Oh, actually, well, no, my mom's not going to see it, but it's there's not going to be any like it's just all implied. But
Yeah.
it with gasoline so much, and it's something that I've really wanted to do for a long time because I mean, gasoline is also about how we as women, like if you follow the vocal line, it goes through like three different archetypes. It
Yeah.
goes through like she, which is me, but like the narrator of the story goes from being very seductive and angelic or she goes from very like seductive and very angelic, and then she turns into this like there's that demon voice. So it's like all of these different archetypes or ideas of women. So since it's about like feeling, and maybe this is I don't mean to sound bitter or cynical, but I feel like sometimes it's like women can be perceived or painted or viewed as these two-dimensional creatures. It's like there's the girl, she's like the sweet bubbly, there's like the wife, there's the promiscuous girl, there's the like uptight whatever. It's like we can be seen as two-dimensional,
Yeah.
so it's fighting against that.
I love that. Now I'm curious, is this going to be shot during the night or is it going to be shot during the day?
Sundown, so golden
Wait.
hour, so a good
Ooh,
like 6 p.m.
okay, that's not too bad. Because in my mind, when I listened to the song, I was getting like night. I distinctly in my head had this idea of like a Tokyo Drift kind of theme of just cars with the colors, the lights underneath the cars being what is being shown in terms of the mood settings. I don't know, I'm that person that's like who can like figure out random stories within the music video, within a song, and kind of make my own music video. I love
No,
this comparison.
well, it's funny you say that because before this, one of the concepts we had played with was this like there was this location that we found that was like a neon kind of virtual reality space. So it's
Oh,
so not off. So that was a big thing, but I felt really passionately about telling the story. So, but the only thing, the only reason we're not doing night is, horses and,
this is usually the part where I tell everybody, where can we find you?
So Instagram, it's I am Coyote Eyes. I do have a TikTok. It is Coyote Eyes Music. So you can find me there too. And then website, I am Coyote Eyes. But Instagram's really where everybody lives these days. Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, wherever you want, wherever you find music, you can find it.
Here, I want to push pause on this.